Hey now, Grizz here. I'm feeling better finally after a couple of weeks of just some awful health deals going on. I'm finally feeling better. So I'm finally going to talk about this knife I just got the other day. But first, let's check out this little guy. This is another German clone, if you will. I've taken to calling them just officer style knives because the truth is this style of knife was made before Carl Elsner started the Victorinox company. They didn't really invent anything. They kind of perfected it. But that being said, other companies certainly rushed to copy their design after it became popular. But this is just a cool little knife. And again, I love horn scales, and especially when you get a light scale on top and a dark scale on the back. I mean, they're both horn, but horn is a natural material. It has a lot of variation in it, color-wise, in the depth of color, in the distribution of hues. It's a cool material to work with, and you know, some people don't like it. It's very hard to match up perfectly. And some people, I like it when it's not matched at all, when it's completely different. And this is certainly a cool one. So we've got that all. Nice little all. Brass liners. Little dirty. What else is new? I like them dirty. We've got a 4-turn corkscrew. Bickety bam. Note the nickel silver bird's eye rivets on the ends with brass pins in the middle. It's pretty cool. Usually they'll have the same material for the pins. They might have like nickel silver washers with brass pins, or brass washers with nickel silver pins. But in this they went with nickel silver washer, nickel silver pin, but then they went with brass, so you get that contrasting color. Super cool. Next up, we got the cap lifter. Little chunky cap lifter. Nothing special, but all you need to get your open your fine beverages. Then we've got the can opener, the old school, early Varna style can opener. Super cool. Fits right into that little notch in the scales. Bam. Then we've got the clip blade. And this clip blade has the Rost Fry stamp. Nice little clip blade. And then next we've got, oh, what a shame. Poor little blade. She's been worked down to the bone. But yeah, and this is, I believe this is just what happens from people. This is like over sharpening. This is where somebody sharpens on a stone, and the way they're doing it is they got their hand here and they're swiping like this, and what they're doing is they're barely sharpening this area and then they're over sharpening this area. So over time the blades wear down like this to where they're tapered here and get wider at the base. I see it all the time, and that's just from a bad sharpening technique. But I'm sure it got the job done for somebody for many years. Obviously somebody loved to use this knife. Here's the cool thing about this knife. This stamp. Still don't know who it is. My thoughts on that stamp are that it's an elephant. I believe that is an elephant. I think the trunk is sticking down. You got the ears sticking out the sides, and then you've got kind of not very elephant looking eyes, but I mean, it could be a bird from the back. I'm really not sure what it is, but my gut instinct is that it's an elephant with Solingen. I've been looking for this maker's stamp, but there are so many, literally thousands of makers out of Solingen over the years, so it can be difficult to find, especially if you don't have the name. If you just have a picture, you're just searching through endless lists and finding blogs where people have recorded every tang stamp they've ever seen and trying to hope that somebody has this knife and knows what it is. Next up, this one is the piece de la resistance. This is the main event right here. Might not look much to you, but this is a friggin' cool knife, man. This is a Daniel Perez. Despite the Spanish name, it's a German family. They started making straight razors in 1792. And they famously went on to become one of the two makers, along with Westerbros, which I showed a knife from in my last video. They were the two companies that made the original model 1890 soldiers before Carl Elsner moved to form the Swiss Master Cutlers Association, and then before Swiss makers started making their own military knives. They were originally outsourced to Germany. This was one of the makers. So, yeah. What does that mean to this knife? Really nothing, but it's a neat little fact, and it kind of gives them a little bit more legitimacy in my eyes in the officer's knife realm, because a lot of people like to call anything that's not a Victorinox or not a Wenger a clone, a knockoff, a ripoff, whatever. But it's really a very shallow way of looking at knife art and the art of knife making. You know, Victorinox is certainly a huge contributor to this style of knife, but they definitely didn't invent it. Yeah, I'll say that again. They didn't invent it. They might have perfected it. And then after they perfected it, other companies that were making similar knives came around and produced the knives in the style that people wanted. That's just how business works. What isn't cool is the companies that do, blatant clones and, had red scales with a cross and a shield on them. Then they're trying to rip off Victorinox, naming them stuff like Inox and Aeronox and trying to find any way to make people's brains mix them up with Victorinox on a shelf or on a display case. So this is this has to be an early one. This is probably early 1920s, maybe the late teens, maybe like 1918 to 1925, somewhere like that. Something that's cool about this knife we'll get into. This knife has immense spring tension. It's got a little chunk missing out of the scales. These are the old school, like vulcanized fiber. As is common, they shrink and then they crack at the pins because that's where the most stress is, and those pins actually move when you open the blades, especially when they're under as much tension as this are. This corkscrew is a bear to open. It's not easy to open, especially on camera when the camera's between me and the knife. But we've got that solid 4-turn corkscrew. Notice the brass liners. This is a project knife. I plan on doing a series of videos of me restoring this knife. I'm going to polish this one up. I'm going to polish this turd right up. Like lipstick on a pig. Yeah, boy. Then we got that awl. And not only is it a cool awl, but it is a patented design. This is a German manufacturing. This is a registration mark that means that they have a patent for this design. I assume that the patent is basically for the slotted hole in it. I mean, it does have a unique profile. It's kind of a flat awl, reamer, whatever you want to call it. Notice, let's look at a Victorinox one from a similar time. And see, this comes much more wider at the base. This is like a quarter round, so it's basically a quarter of a pyramid or something like that. I don't know. It's a quarter round though. It's got a 90-degree angle and then it's rounded here. This one is actually flat basically on one side. It's actually concave. This is actually scooped in, and that would give you great edges here. These are worn dull, but I can tell these were sharp at one point. This would be a hell of a reamer. This is probably one of the best reamers as far as actually for reaming holes that I've come across. And the other cool thing about it is that it has that, let's see if I can find a modern reamer here. Of course I can, because I've got like 50 Swiss Army knives sitting here. Damn it. All right, I don't have one that has a hole in it. But if you notice Victorinox, the hole is a little farther back. They moved this hole as close to the tip as I think they could without weakening it too much. I've seen one other example of this all, and it was actually cracked right here at the hole. So the hole is a weak point on a tool like this that's going to be twisted and pushed on and torqued on and stuff. But the reason it has a slot instead of just a hole is often a lot of the times the problem with these awls, especially the Swizzle ones, they have a hole that's too small for the type of thread you would be using to make like repairs on, say, a canvas sail or something like that, or you know, a hatch cover, you know, something made of canvas material, which is what you'd be working with. And it's hard to get a rope through a round hole, but you can press the rope flat and get it through here. So you can actually get a larger rope through there than you could through just a round hole of half the size, but a little thicker. You can't really squeeze a rope in from all areas, but you can press it flat and get it through. And it's also closer to the tip, because if you were using this to do back stitching, whatever it is, they kind of like what a sewing machine does. So you push a loop through, and then you pull the line through, and then you go to the next one, and you keep pushing a loop through. And there's no reason for the hole to be farther back, because you don't need to push more of the tip through to get it. You know, it makes it so you have to do the minimal amount of movement possible to get the job done, and that's a great thing. So obviously it was great enough that they felt it was an important enough feature to go through the hassle of patenting. So it's cool, very unique little awl on this guy. 4 exposed pins with, looks to me to be carbon steel bird's eye rivets at the ends. We've got that can opener, and it's got a heck of a snap. And look at the stock on this thing. Everything on this thing is heavy duty, man. Like the thickness and spring tension is comparable to what you will get on like the soldiers' knives of this time, not the officers' knives. This thing is, I mean, look at that compared to a contemporary can opener. Yes, this is an 84 millimeter model, but still the thickness is negligible. Difference between an 84 and a 91. And the stock they used for these materials is just great. Everything snaps nicely. It's got a lot of spring tension, but not so much that it's a nail breaker. Only that corkscrew is just a little tough to get out, but you know, it's not so like unbearably so that it would be a problem for anybody. And here is the cap lifter with the screwdriver pry bar, and again, it's a beefy, thick tool, very heavy duty. This thing will take a lot of punishment. And what's cool about it is that little beer barrel right there. It's even got like a little cross or tap on the top of it. Super cool. So yeah, just picture the beer bottle laying on the side. You can see the bung. They even have the bung on top, which is the hole where they fill it at, and then like a bung is drove into there, which is just like a round wedge, you know, cork basically, and then it's tapped at the end. Super cool. Next up, we've got the clip blade. Again, everything on this is rock solid, and this is thick for a clip blade. It's not. There's nothing about this knife is delicate, man. So, it's comparable. It's a little comparable. It stays a little thicker out towards the tip, but very, you know, very overbuilt for what you would use this for, which is sharpening pens and erasing ink and stuff back then. That is a very heavy duty blade. And check this out. We've got a tang stamp on here. Magnetica. This is just, this is a brand name that Perez used from time to time. I've seen a lot of straight razors with that name. I don't think it has anything to do with the magnetic properties of the steel, or whether it's demagnetized or magnetizable. It's just, I think it sounded cool. I really don't think there's anything there beyond it sounding futuristic and cool. Then we've got the main event. Look at this guy. That is super cool. Of course, the blade is worn down. I mean, this looks, it's almost a Warncliffe at this point. I could, if I straightened this up a little bit and brought this tip down, it would just be a Warncliffe. I might even do that. I might as well just finish what nature has already done here. I assume the tip's been broken at some point. I don't know, the swedge is still there, so it looks like the natural swedge comes down to here. So maybe the tip broke, or maybe this is just worn down. If it did, it was a very minor break, but I think it was just sharpened this way. Again, you can see in better detail the beer barrel. You can see the little bung on top of it, the tap. That is super cool. And then we've got the main tank stamp. D. Perez, Solingen. That is beautiful. Daniel Perez. What a cool little knife. All carbon steel, all in great shape. And look how thick that blade stock is. Here is, for comparison, here's a 91 millimeter 1946 or so camper. And the blade stock is substantially thicker. I suspect this blade is probably 4 millimeters or something, maybe 3.5 to 4 millimeters. It's a full millimeter thicker at least than the Swiss Army knife blades. It's basically a bulked up Swiss Army knife on steroids, if I had to say anything. Like, here's a good way. If you really want to compare the thicknesses, the way to do it is with the blades closed, and then take them end to end, and you can really see the difference there. If you line the liners up, notice that basically the liners for the Swiss Army knife blade will fit inside the liners for this German knife. Very cool, man. So these D. Perez's, you know, them and Westerbros, they kind of fly under the radar. It's something I've become interested in lately, so I'm always keeping an eye out for them. But my next is I want to find one of these with the old solid screwdriver. Like, there she is. Like that. So then I'll be happy. Yeah. But this is one of the cool ones I'm happy to add to the collection. I look forward in the next week or so. I hope to upload some videos. I'm going to try to do some progress and show actually what I do to bring this knife back to life. My plans are to clean it up, polish it up first, and then I'm probably going to tape a little like a tape dam around here and fill this with epoxy, Then I'm going to, once that hardens, I'm going to sand the crap out of everything. Sand it down nice and flush so the rivets are all nice and flush. This is all like absorbed moisture and expanded and contracted, and that's why you always see these sunken rivets like that. But no big deal. Just sand it down and get rid of that. And I think this will be a beautiful knife because it's a great basis to start with. It's just so strong, so stout. It's an absolute beast of a knife. Listen to the snap. Bam. Great sound. Great walk and talk if you like that knife nerd lingo. So, that is a D. Perez knife. My mystery elephant knife from Germany. That, I don't know what the heck that is. Maybe it's a butterfly, for all I know. I'm pretty sure it's an elephant, though. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peter Grizz out.